marbles. These are mine at about age 6. They have no real value, but there are marbles that are crafted by artisans that are highly collectible. I've recently learned about collectors who've combined their passion for marbles with a hobby of geocaching. Marbles are photographed and documented with the artist's name, and then are hidden. The photos and coordinates are posted on the web along with some search clues. And that's where this project begins. The question, can you make me a marble display? So, sure. Something 16 to 18 inches wide, a shelf maybe 2 inches deep. And the rest of the design was mine. Something to fill in the gaps with what I can build and what I have materials for. The first step on this project was to create the lighting I was going to use in the shelves. I decided to use LED strips, and to hold them in the shelves I wanted to create a plastic carrier. So I used a sheet of white plastic that I had and cut 3/4 inch strips out of it. The next step is to fasten some LED strips to the carriers. The first one that I'll put on is a white LED strip that I had, just some leftover stock. Then next that I'm going to put on a UV blacklight strip. And the reason for testing with the blacklight strip is some of the marbles have patterns that only show up under blacklight. So here I've got a test strip that'll have the white light and a UV light strip. In testing I found that the UV light strips are not that bright. So in the final project I ended up using a double strip of the UV light on the top shelf. I did a test to see how the UV light would transfer through the 1/2 inch plexiglass rod. It came through okay, although it didn't really show up on the camera. I had a piece of 6/4 cherry left over from a mirror project that I'd completed earlier in the summer, so I decided that I could cut all the pieces that I needed for the box and the frame and trim out of that piece of material. The shelves would be fairly thin. All the parts for the shelves and the box would be fairly thin. The shelves would be 1/2 inch thick, and because I was cutting a channel in it for the light strips, the pieces that I needed to cut out would be 3/8 of an inch thick with 1/8 of an inch laminated onto the top. The sides would be 1/2 inch thick. The top, maybe closer to 1 inch thick. What I ended up doing is resawing. So I took the 6/4 cherry and ran it through the saw to create the thinner strips that I'd be needing. The next task is to cut the shelves to width. There's a lot more cutting that takes place than you'll see here, but this gives you an idea of how that 6/4 material is broken down into the thinner pieces that are needed. The LED strips will sit down in a channel that will be cut into each of the shelves. To do this, I decided to use the table saw. It was just a matter of running it through several times to get it to the 3/4 inch width that I needed. The blade that I'm using in the table saw is a flat top blade. It'll give a real clean cutout for the dado, allowing me to easily slide the LED strip carrier in. With the shelf channel cut, it's time to do a fit check of the LED strip. I want to make sure that the LEDs don't stick up higher than the top surface, which would get in the way of being able to slide that strip in and out when the shelf is laminated together. Now it's time to laminate on a 1/8 inch thick piece of cherry that'll make the shelf look like a solid 1/2 inch thick piece of wood. Everything that was resawn on the table saw will run through the drum sander. This will remove all of the saw marks, and it'll make sure everything has a uniform thickness and uniform smooth surface. Today is final sanding on these, and then a sealer coat of shellac. And we're getting down towards final steps on here. The next step is to take the sides of the cabinet box and to cut some dado slots in there to support the shelves. I'm going to do this on the mill. And why a mill? Well, because there's a mill. It's fun to use, accurate, it's perfection. Yeah, I'm still looking for a piece of steel to use for the back of the cabinet, and I know that I saw some small pieces back in here. So let's take a look and see what we've got. So that one might work. Measure it. And the rest of these pieces are pretty small. That one's aluminum. So I think we'll take this one and measure it, see how that'll work. Here I'm just using the mill as a drill press. No need to be super accurate for this process. These holes are just going to be used to hold the steel plate against the back of the cabinet. Here's a little task that the mill will do nicely. I'll be cutting keyhole slots. Those will be used to hang this on the wall. The steel backplate on the cabinet will be powder-coated black. Tanner had a color that he had used a couple of years ago, which was called Black Check, which is a satin black. It turned out really beautiful. The idea of the black color is to make sure that the marbles stand out against a really dark background. I'm more excited about it. The marbles will sit on top of plexiglass posts. The posts are 13 millimeter diameter and will sit in corresponding holes in each of the shelves. In order to have the marble stay on top, I'm using a router bit in order to make a cove cut in the top of each post. The posts are just cut at random lengths so that there can be a random height of the marbles across each shelf. With all of the wood pieces fabricated and fine sanded, it's time to put a sealer coat on. I'll be spraying on Shellac, which is an alcohol-based finish. It goes on easily, dries very quickly, and makes a good base for staining. With the sealer, you know from coverage of the stain, omitting the problem of blotchy areas on the wood. Now I'm applying the gel stain. Applying a gel stain over the sealer is a real easy process. It allows the stain to go on much easier. It's easy to wipe down to a uniform color, uniform look to it. If there's any trick to this, it's to make sure you apply plenty of material, without going overboard of course, and to wipe it down fairly quickly after you put it on. If you wait too long to wipe it back down, it'll be sticky and you won't be able to bring it down to a uniform color. Another thing I like about gel stain is that you can always apply another coat. You can deepen the tone by adding the same color back again, or you can darken the tone by adding a darker color. Yesterday I applied a coat of this Georgian cherry, and at first I thought it looked pretty good, but the more I look at it, the more I think I'd like it to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to try mixing some gel stains together. I'm going to do mostly the cherry and then add some antique walnut to it. And I'll try it on my test piece and see what it looks like. Probably do like 1/3 of the walnut. So I'll get some cherry here, and then a little bit of the walnut. And then mix it up really good. Okay. Let's see what this looks like. I think I like that a little bit better. Okay. Now it's time for final assembly of the box. Of course, it's been dry fit together many times. It's been clamped together and evaluated, make sure everything looks like it's going to fit properly. Everything can come out square. And now it's time to put glue on it and pin it together. The nail that I'm using is a 23 gauge pin nailer. It fires nails that are referred to as pins. They're 23 gauge. They don't have a head on them. They're pretty much invisible once they're driven into the wood.
Okay. You're too far over. Is it going?
No. Maybe you should be where I'm at. There you go. Just a second. I gotta get that to bend down.
Use some better pliers.
Those are good pliers. Okay, that'll do it. That one's perfect. Okay. I think that's too long. That should work, huh?
I guess.
This has to be low enough profile that it'll slide through that slot in the shelf. Let's see. Looks perfect, in fact. I should have brought the power supply over to test this out. This had better fit in that shelf.
There you go. Actually looks really good too.
Thanks. So yeah, and then the other thing that I did is I drilled
Oh, I see what you're doing.
2 holes in there, and I'm going to do a tie down on that. So these are the ultraviolet. It is finally time for final assembly of this display cabinet. The shelves just slide in. So this is the upper shelf. And next we want to install the LED carrier strips. So this one is the top strip, and it will shine down Now I've got the top shelf. This one is a dual LED blacklight strip. And I've got the lower shelf. Okay, and then the power feed will come in from the bottom. And twist around to get into the feed channel. Time to fit the back on. Alright, now the last piece to install is going to be this cover for the wiring.